It's now time for Remember When with Uncle John. John Guess, Ouachita County's resident storyteller and local historian. Sit back now and enjoy a walk down memory lane as John recalls the days of yesteryear in his own unique way. You never know, some of it might even be true. So here's Uncle John, along with his trusty sidekick, Kelly Blair.
Back on Remember When with Uncle John. Well, here we are at Finish Line Friday, and that around here, these parts, that means we have got a top tune to be talked about. Lay it on us, Johnny.
Well, you know, Sunday's Father's Day.
Yes, sir.
You're a father.
Yep.
I'm a father.
Yes.
Your daddy's a father.
Yep.
My daddy was a father.
Yep. All that makes sense.
Yeah. Alan Jackson's daddy was a father. Daddy Gene. And he wrote a song called Drive.
Well, you know, when you're a songwriter and a musician, that's what you do. You write songs about the people and things that are important to you.
And it reminds me a lot of my daddy. You know, it's always a sad time every year. You know, this will be the 47th Father's Day. I hadn't had my daddy. So, you know, you hang on to the good times. You hang on to the memories. Unfortunately, we didn't have video recorders at the time or VCRs or anything, so I don't have a recording of his voice, but I know what his voice sounded like.
Oh, yeah.
My kids didn't get to hear his voice. You know, my nephew and them didn't get to hear his voice, but I remember his voice. And he taught me to drive, and he taught me a lot of things that to this day I still use. You know, he had a service station in Chittister, and when everybody else was all the other kids my age was going to summer camp or to the swimming pool or to the boys club or playing little league or whatever, I was sharpening lawnmower blades and fixing flats and standing on a bucket to get the drain plug out of a car on the rack to change oil.
There you go.
But I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't trade it for nothing. I got a lot of my daddy's mannerisms and I've got a lot of great memories. This is a great song. Like I said, it reminds me a lot of my daddy. It was written by Alan Jackson for his daddy, Gene, who passed away January 31st, 2000, Eugene Jackson. And it went to number one on the U.S. Billboard Country Singles and Tracks in May 2002, and it peaked at number 28 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's a great song. Like I said, it reminds me a lot of my daddy. I only had him for 16 years. But I can still remember cold afternoons after shutting the service station down, stopping and feeding the cows, and he'd let me drive home. And he built me a go-kart when I was in the 6th grade. He put a 5-horse and Briggs & Stratton motor on it, and I terrorized Chittister with it.
There you go.
And, you know, it gave me one of my early loves for automobiles. You know, I learned to work on cars and do things like that from him. Fix lawnmowers and power saws and anything that had a carburetor and you know, internal combustion. He always told me, said, you know, you ain't got to have a college degree to do this. It's pretty simple. And I love him and I miss him. I love my girls. I miss them when I don't get to see them. And I want all the fathers out there to have a great Father's Day. I want all the kids that's listening to this, if you still got your daddy, go to him and hug him and tell him you love him, because he ain't going to be there forever.
That is true, and I am so blessed that I've still got mine around right now and everything. That is not something that is lost upon me. My daddy always made sure I had something to ride around on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Started with go-karts, went to three-wheelers, went to cars, you know, the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, a lot of things that a lot of fathers and sons can relate to out there. A lot of fathers and sons grew up doing the sports thing, you know, maybe hunting and fishing, something like that. But the big thing is be involved and, you know, help keep the kids on the straight and narrow and all that kind of good stuff. I know there's all kinds of stuff that you learn from your father you use every day.
My daddy would buy an old car. If somebody'd come in, they'd need $25 and they'd have an old car and the clutch is out of it or the starter wasn't working on it. And this back when you could buy a car for $25. And he'd buy them, and we'd put a few dollars in them, and he'd let me drive them around, you know. I'll never forget, he had a 68 Impala one time that he bought from somebody for $100. Had a top-notch 327 in it. Didn't have no reverse. Now, you only pull down under the hill at the Mercantile one time with no reverse.
With no reverse.
You don't do that again, because it took everybody we could get to push it back up out of there on level ground. But I love my daddy, and I miss him. And like I said, if you got your daddy, call him up, tell him you love him, hug his neck. You ain't got to buy him nothing.
Right.
You ain't got to go buy him anything. You ain't got to spend a bunch of money on him. Tell him you love him, give him a call, take him out and buy him breakfast.
And, hey, if you no longer have your father with you, now's a great time to grab all those grandkids and kids and all that and remember when and talk to them about just what a great guy he was. As John said, that's going to wrap up Remember When with Uncle John here for today. But we're going to play Drive by Alan Jackson to commemorate fathers all over out there. How many of us learned how to drive from our fathers?
And remember, if you got nothing to do Sunday afternoon, come on out to Red Hill Church, 3 miles out of Chittister on Washita 22, a good meal and congregational singing. We'll see you Monday, Kelly.
All right.
You've been listening to Remember When with Uncle John on Y95. This broadcast can be heard each weekday morning at 6:45 on South Arkansas's favorite station, Y95.